Welcome, Gothamites, to my channel. My name is Josh, the Crowllector, and in these videos I will be showing off my Scarecrow collection, aka my Crowlection, as it grows increasingly larger, as well as everything else that I collect, because frankly, I have no self-control. Now today is a very special day for me, because not only is it my first video, but I will also be reviewing my first ever Mondo figure. Now I've been a bit of a Mondo wallflower up until this point, always watching and admiring from afar, but never quite joining in. Now I have been tempted many times, because Mondo makes some beautiful pieces, both art and collectibles wise, all of which just so happens to center around properties that were very influential to me in my youth as I became the nerd that I am today. I'm talking X-Men, the animated series, Spider-Man, the animated series, and, of course, Batman, the animated series. So help me if they ever start making Scooby-Doo figures, because then I am really in trouble. Now these guys are definitely nice, definitely pricey, but definitely nice. These are collector's items. Look, I'll even turn the box around here and show you, because it says right there, collector's model. This is not a toy. This is a big boy toy. It says right there. But hey, when it comes down to it, the only difference between a kid collector and an adult collector is, what, a couple of years, maybe a couple of feet, right? And before we move on, we'll take a moment to thank these wonderful people at Mondo for this beautiful figure. I owe you guys so much, in addition to the money that I've already sent you. Now, I have managed to behave up until this point with the previous Batman animated releases, tempting as they all have been. But I told myself from the start that if and when they ever got around to making Scarecrow, I would have to get him. And that day is finally upon us, my friends, and I gotta say, I see what all the fuss is about. Full disclosure, I did jump ahead a little bit and unbox these already, because I simply could not wait to get them out of the box and start messing around with them. Now, you notice I said them, because I did not just get one of these bad boys. Oh no, I got 4. You can call me many things, but financially responsible is not one of them. Anyway, while we're here, let's get started with the box, because Mondo is known for their pop art. He's very bright, very vibrant against that black background, which actually, now that I look at it under the light, seems like it's a dark red, brown almost. It's nice. The animated series is famous for that iconic black and red kind of noir aesthetic, and this guy really embodies that. Now this is the limited edition version, as you can see by the nice shiny sticker here. The regular edition is exactly the same, just without the holographic sticker. So everyone does get to enjoy this nice same art. As you can see, we have Scarecrow in all of his spooky glory here. He's giving you a jump scare from the shadows, about to spray you with that fear toxin. And on the inside, we have another nice little spread of old Johnny Boy there from the episode Trial, where he's brandishing that nice pointy sharp scythe, that's difficult to say, for all to see. This is actually the only episode he uses that scythe in, despite being pictured with it a lot. And boy, does he look dangerous. Gotta be careful where you're pointing that thing, Johnny. It'll poke your eye out. Now, inside the box, there are a couple plastic trays, which I did take the liberty of removing just for glare's sake, but I did want to show the back card. As you can see, we have a nice background of what appears to be a big, spooky, shadowy bat creature, no doubt an effect of the Scarecrow's toxin. On one hand, it might have been cool to get like an Arkham Asylum backdrop for the villains, maybe a Batcave one for the heroes, but I do really like this personalized backing as well. My only note, and something to really take note of if you're looking to display your figure against this background, is that the bottom tray here is taped to the cardboard. So if you're not careful, you might rip this nice, beautiful art. And because you didn't just come here to look at a box, let's move on to the figure itself. Now, man, am I impressed. I get it now. You guys, this is why Mondo has the reputation that they do. This guy is beautiful, so well sculpted, so well painted, so vibrant. The red is very, very striking on the shelf. I don't know how it's coming across on camera, but very, very striking. I am so happy with this guy. I mean, look at him just like mean mugging it for the camera. He's coming to get you. He's coming to haunt your dreams. Now, as I said previously, I had to get 4 of these guys. I mean, I didn't have to, but I kind of had to, you know? To me, and I would assume to any other fans of Scarecrow, this is kind of the ultimate figure, at least as far as the animated series is concerned. Now, to break it down, we have a couple of the go-to accessories with this guy. We have, and I'll use one of my extra scythes here as a little pointer. We have the default mask that he's wearing right now. This is the one that appeared in the most episodes. We have the unmasked Jonathan Crane head here. Very snide looking, very holier than thou. And of course, the scythe. Those are things that other companies like DC Collectibles, and now McFarlane Toys, have all included with their animated Scarecrow releases. But then we get a couple bonus goodies. Now, all editions of this guy come with these alternate hands here. I have some open, kind of claw ones, some grabby ones. This one on the right here, I don't know how well you can see it, but is probably the best one to hold. The little vial of fear toxin here. It kind of slots in to his fingers just so. We also have the nice Grim Reaper pocket watch that he has in Dreams in Darkness. You have 2 fear toxin hands, most likely from his first appearance, Fear of Victory. And then you get the Bat logo stand, which comes with all the Mondo figures. Now, if you managed to order the limited edition, and I do say if, because they were limited, not timed. So there was only a certain amount made, and they did go pretty fast. But if you got an order in, the limited edition comes with some of my favorite accessories. First, we have 2 bonus head sculpts. And when they first showed these guys off, I was so excited. First, we have his very first mask from the episode Nothing to Fear. And then we have this kind of monstrous, nightmarish fear toxin head from Fear of Victory. If you can believe it, this is the first time we've gotten either of these 2 heads in plastic form. And yes, one could argue that the first head here is probably the most boring of the 3, but it is still a crucial part of the character's history. We've also, oddly enough, never really gotten a fear toxin head with any Scarecrow figure before, at least animated. We've had a few attempts before, oddly enough, I think on both Batman Begins figures, the original Batman Begins figures from 2005, both had a little spinning head feature where it could become nightmarish, but it was not a screen-accurate design. The new Batman Begins McFarlane figure has little maggots painted onto the mask, but I don't know. Unless you really know what they are, you wouldn't know what they are, you know? This is the first time we've gotten that screen-accurate, transformed, monstrous head, and it is beautiful. And that's not even all, because you guys, he also, for the limited edition, comes with this little Joker rat from the episode Dreams in Darkness. I mean, how cute is this little guy? Look at him. He's got a ball-jointed head here. You can move his arms up and down to say hello. I mean, come on. Where else are you going to get this guy as an accessory? And that's really what makes Mondo so fun. They're clearly making figures for the hardcore fans while also being pretty hardcore fans themselves. Now, there's a couple other things that they could maybe have included with the figure. Maybe get a flare from that first episode, or a briefcase with money in it. Maybe that goofy disguise he wears before this head in Fear of Victory. But I think they really nailed it in terms of accessories. They give us some old accessories, some new ones. And as far as appearances go, they really managed to run the gamut and give us something from pretty much every episode. Now, back to the figure itself. I'll be using my little tape measure here. He stands about maybe a little under 13 inches from the feet to the top of the hat. I like a good hat. I know that a lot of the more modern designs for Scarecrow, like the Arkham series and the New 52, did away with the hat in favor of a hood or just the mask. I don't really have a preference, but something about that hat just says classic Scarecrow to me. Now, I always liked the animated series design. Maybe, I don't know, just due to the popularity of the show, but it really feels like one of his most famous, long-lasting looks. And out of all the characters, he certainly got the most redesigns. That's one of the things that I like about Scarecrow, really, is how often he changes. He had 3 very distinct looks in the animated series. The first mask here was very simple. It's very thin, very long, no straw, almost more skin-like in appearance. That sort of looks like an earthworm when you really stop to look at him. Then we have this middle appearance, which is the most common one you'll see throughout the episodes. We have the more angular, sort of crooked mask with those jagged teeth, the scar-like stitching on his eye and his mouth, the straw hair in the back. It's all very classic Scarecrow, and it may very well be my favorite. And then, of course, we have the third kind of infamous design from the new Batman adventures. Very creepy, very corpse-like, and is often considered to be the quote-unquote best of the 3 designs. That, of course, is completely up to you. I don't dislike it at all. It's very, very cool looking, but something about this middle figure, the nice classic Scarecrow look, might actually be my favorite. It just feels right to me. Maybe because it's the one that appeared in the most episodes, so it's sort of his default look. And unlike the other 2 looks, it really looks more like there's actually somebody in the mask, which I like. But these aren't Mondo figures, so let's get these out of the way. Now, paint-wise, he's relatively simple. And that's another thing that really is great about the animated series, is that all the characters have a unique enough color palette that you can immediately tell who it is just by seeing the colors. Joker, obviously, is green, white, and purple. Batman, silver, yellow, black, and blue. And Scarecrow is always red. You have brown, tan, broken up by some of the black on the stitching here, and the yellow for the hair. There's little pops. The paint on Scarecrow itself, very crisp, very clean. No real visible slop, which is very impressive, especially along the stitching here. Little lines like that, I feel like, are often harder to do without some paint bleeding over. But for the most part, he's really nice. They managed to do it pretty cleanly. Same with the cell shading. It's there. It's subtle, but it's noticeable. It's really more of an accent along the figure. There's some more there, just to kind of suggest shadows or angles, which is really how cell shading should be in the first place. So I'm very impressed by that, Mondo. Now, sculpt-wise, I think he looks spot on. It can be hard to translate 2D characters into 3D models. Sometimes, like with The Simpsons, for instance, they don't look bad per se, but they look a little odd. Sometimes you have to make little changes to fill in the blanks, which can lead to the model looking a little bit off. That's not necessarily the case with Batman figures. And I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe because they're more fantastical, or because we see them in more dynamic poses and angles, but regardless, Scarecrow turned out very well. They managed to sculpt in the wrinkles on his clothes to really show how skinny he is. Jonathan here is a skinny legend, and yet they did something smart that the old DC Direct and McFarlane figure didn't really do. They added some bulk to him, especially in the arms and the legs. Let me see if I can stand him up. Jonathan here with Lil Johnny. With the old figure, he was almost too skinny, especially in the joints and the knees here especially, which made him both a little hard to stand and made him a little prone to warping, which is a little more noticeable on the new McFarlane version that I have. You can see there's a little bend in the leg there that I can't really seem to get out, even with heat. He definitely has a fragility to him that this new Mondo one does not. Now, each head sculpt is very nice, and as you'll see, they do stand out very well from one another. With the unmasked head here, he's got a nice little scowl to him. He's always acting like he's better than everyone else. And they really managed to get that kind of shock of red hair appropriately spiky. I don't know how he manages to get his hair so spiky under that mask. It's probably all the static electricity from that burlap. For the earthworm head, it's very thin, very pin-headed, and again, broken up by that nice kind of jagged stitching in the back there. If you were to cut that stitching, I wonder if he would look like one of the Canadians from South Park. Just two unconnected heads like, flapping on top of each other. He has this nice little evil grin on his face that really adds some character to, again, this otherwise very plain, kind of boring mask. With this sort of, let's call it a ghoul head, you get, again, those nice kind of jagged angles. They gave him a lot more teeth this time around, whereas with the original figure, you just kind of get a couple little buck teeth on the bottom there. But here, he's got much more of a toothy grin. He's been taking care of his teeth. He also has, I think, a lot better hair. With this old DC figure, I don't know how well you can see it, but it's almost like he's got kind of a bob, like a wig. It's almost got like a blocky French fry quality to him. Whereas this new one, maybe less defined pieces, but has more of kind of an overall shaggy hair slash straw-like quality. Very wild, unkempt, really like he did just stuff a bunch of straw under there. And the monstrous head is a lot thicker. It's very heavy. There's actually a good amount of bulk to this guy that makes him a little difficult to stand without the included stand. You get that creepy, stretched out grin and all those nice, sharp teeth, the heavy black paint along the eyes and the brow. My only gripe, I think, with this one is the lips. It does help break up the sculpt and the look of it a little bit, but I think it comes off a little bit like he's wearing lipstick. He almost looks like something out of Real Monsters, if you remember that show. But still, this was such a cool inclusion. This look, I don't know, maybe had 5 seconds of screen time, if that. But its inclusion really shows you how deep they were willing to go, and it really does look so striking. The only thing that really sticks out to me as looking a little off is the hat. And this goes back to what I was saying about 2D images in a 3D format. Now, Scarecrow in the show was always very floppy, very angular, hunched over and bent, like he was really made of straw. And the hat sort of changed shape depending on how he moved, what angle you saw him at. Now, this doesn't look bad at all. It's actually arguably a little bit more show accurate than some previous figures that we've gotten. With the old DC Direct hat, it was made of a softer plastic here, so it tended to kind of flatten out a bit. I got lucky with this one out of the package where it held its shape, whereas this one is a much more rigid plastic. You know, you can hear it. And it changes shape all the way around, which is kind of neat. I do think it looks the best just completely straight on, depending on what way you angle it. Get a nice kind of shadowed effect. Oddly enough, it kind of looks like a tortilla chip if you look at it from above. But it does add a real dynamicness to the figure, even on this one here, where no angle is ever quite the same. And again, you get those shadows or more light, depending on how you angle it. The only difference is with the monstrous head. This one is a little bit flatter on the brim, and it kind of curves upwards at both ends, sort of like horns. They easily could have just slapped the same hat on this one and called it a day, but they took the time to give that extra effort, and I really commend them for it. Articulation-wise, you have just about everything you could need or think of for a figure like this, even if some of it is a little bit hindered by the sculpt. You have a sort of ball-jointed shoulder there, which can go straight out, which for, you know, the concept of a Scarecrow is sort of important. You have hinged elbows, though they are a little impeded by this little point here. It adds to the angle and the sculpt, but it does hinder backwards mobility just a little bit, but nothing that's too bad. His crotch piece here looks like it should be a V cut, but there's actually a nice, again, sort of ball joint under there that gives you a nice bit of movement. The knees sort of suffer the same as the elbows, where because of this little kind of overlapping piece here, they don't really get much forward movement. But again, I don't know really how much you would need him to go forward. The feet also don't have a whole lot of movement. They do go up and down, side to side, but they are hindered by this little overlapping piece of fabric there. Notably, there's no ab articulation. This is all one solid piece. They do sort of make up for it by giving you a little bit of a swivel joint at the waist. It's not going to get you a whole lot of movement, but there is enough. And then finally, you have what is technically a ball-jointed head. Depending on which head sculpt you're using for him, you're going to get a lot more or a lot less movement. Obviously, with the earthworm head, there's no hair there to hinder the movement. I would imagine same with the unmasked one here. Let's take a look. Yeah, you get a nice little bit of little bopping and grooving there. Whereas with the straw hair, unfortunately, gonna get some nice forward movement. Maybe he's like checking his shoes out there. He stepped on something. Not a whole lot of backwards movement. And it's the same with the monstrous head. Now this guy, because of how heavy the head sculpt is, there's really not much movement at all. The neck is a lot thicker too, so you get a bit of a side to side, but even that, with the way the hair falls on the shoulders, he's kind of just going to be looking forward. Now, in terms of things to watch out for, I had heard from people that Mondo figures can be a little fragile, and this guy is no different. He is obviously a little thinner in places just due to the nature of the character. So you want to be careful posing him, not to add too much force. I don't know if you can see, but I did have one little break with swapping the hands. The wrist pegs especially are long and thin, so I definitely recommend heating them up before you try and swap them out. When you do, just give like a little wiggle while you pull for best results, because you don't want to put too much strain on these thin pegs. I did just end up gluing the hand that broke, and it looks fine in the pose that I want the monstrous one in, sort of that spooky, I'm coming to get you pose. But other than that, I am so happy to finally have this figure in my grubby little claws. I've officially opened that Mondo Pandora's box, and I am all in. I'm going to try and behave and not pick up all of the previous releases, but I already have Clayface pre-ordered. That guy looks so cool, and come on, you gotta have a Batman to fight, so I might pick up him as well. And so help me if they ever make the version from the new Batman animated adventures. Oh, baby! That's going to be a beautiful figure if they ever get around to it. But all in good time. In the meantime, let me know what you guys think of the Mondo Scarecrow figure. Do you have him in your collection or any of the other figures? Also, let me know your favorite Scarecrow episode or moment from the animated series. He's got a lot of really cool moments, but I'm biased. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. It would really help me feel better about my nerdiness. And stay tuned for more videos from the Crowllector. I'll see you guys back here soon, but in the meantime, remember, stay spooky.